Hey John, welcome to GAC RMHC Golf Classic. Just want to give you an opportunity here to view your swing at regular speed. Let that play on through. We'll put you back in your address position and we'll go ahead and take a look at a few things for you. So while we got you back here in your setup, let's first of all just take a look at your posture. Spine's nice and straight and on a slight tilt. Legs come down in a nicely unlocked position. Arms hang down nice and naturally in front of you. Club works out to the ball. So achieving some pretty decent posture here in association with good balance. It looks great. Let's go ahead and observe your alignment now. See your feet are in a bit of a closed stance there. We'll carry that out towards the intended target. Theoretically, your club face is supposed to run parallel to your feet, and parallel lines on camera would have an appearance of converging. And even with that scenario, what we can see here is that you're set up out into this little body of water here. So we're probably going to have to see some form of a compensation where we're trying to get the ball back towards the center of the fairway. Let's go ahead and do a little split screen comparison here between you and Jordan Spieth. Now I've got some color-coded lines on the screen just to use as a visual reference as it pertains to swing plane. We can see with Jordan, as he initiates his takeaway, he creates good shoulder rotation, bringing arms and hands back as well as the club. Want to see the club coming back on plane directly along this red line. As we get to about this area of the golf swing here, we're going to need to incorporate some wrist hinge into play, where we're going to transition the club from being below our hands to now being above and behind our hands. From here, we're going to work the club now from red up towards the blue-yellow V zone. And when we finally set the club at the top of the backswing, we want to have the left arm situated on the yellow line, anywhere within the blue-yellow V zone, or physically on blue, as we see with Jordan Spieth. We also want to make sure that we've created full shoulder rotation, and we do this about a very stable right leg. Let's go ahead and watch you initiate your takeaway here. Your hands draw back nicely with the golf club. Hands do have a tendency of moving just a little bit outside, with the club sneaking a little bit inside. Not that big of a deal here. As long as we continue to get some good wrist hinge into here and don't let the hands go too far out in front of us, that's okay. So we're definitely getting some good wrist hinge into play. Let's go ahead and work this right to the top of the backswing and let's see where we finally set things. When we get to the top, we can see that you certainly create full shoulder rotation. Do that about a pretty stable right side. Left arm gets situated on the yellow line, which is great. Club gets a little bit out of position whereby it sort of crosses the line a little too far out to the right there. So we're going to have to do a little work here to bring this golf club back down into the ball from an on-plane position. As we go ahead and create our transition back in the ball, simply want to move our weight from our right foot to our left, fire our knees and our hips laterally to the target, unwind our core and fire our hands. And in doing so, we want to make sure that we're bringing the golf club from that blue-yellow V zone, wherever we set it, back onto red. And that's exactly what we see here with Jordan Spieth. The golf club is returned back to being on plane. The other thing we want to observe at this stage of the golf swing is the relationship between the lead forearm and the golf club. Refer to this as the backwards check mark. Simply means the club head right now is remaining above and behind our hands coming into the hitting zone. And this is what's going to allow us to create a lot of power in the golf swing, let alone his ability to hit the ball straight, due to the fact that, again, the club has returned back to plane, which is a main ingredient in order to produce straight golf shots. Let's go ahead and watch you create your transition into the ball here. So hands initially dropped okay. Now they're moving out in front of you. So there's an over-the-top move here where you're pushing your hands down yellow out towards blue. You're fighting to keep the club head behind your hands because you subconsciously know that this is where power comes from. So at this point in time, we can look at your lead form, we can look at your club and say, hey, you know what, we've got our backwards check mark. We're going to be able to create some power in the golf swing. But what we want to look at is we want to look at the fact that the club head is not returning back to plane and that the club shaft is a little too steep, meaning the club's coming into the ball right here at about 54 or 5 degrees, whereas Jordan's club is on an angle of about 31 or 32 degrees. Okay? So we're in a completely different shaft angle coming into the golf shot, with the club head returning to plane on his, and yours it has not. Let's go ahead and undo those lines. We'll continue to track the club head coming into the golf ball, and we just want to simply see where this golf club goes. So in the next frame, club falls out in front. So at this point in time, we can go ahead and just sort of connect the dots here. And this gives you a really good visual as to what the descending plane was coming back into the ball, and the fact that, again, the golf club had not returned back onto plane and did not approach the golf ball from being on plane, as we can see with Jordan Spieth here. And as I already mentioned, this is ultimately what allows us to hit a straight golf shot in accordance to our alignment. So we can see vastly different downswing planes where your club's coming in a little too steep. It's therefore going to be attacking the ball a little bit from out to in. But at the end of the day, this is your compensation for the fact that you're aiming out to the right. So we can go ahead and clear this stuff off the screen. We can take a look at the pass of the club. Let me see if I can bring you down one more frame without hitting the ball. Well, we're sort of striking in the ball there. So with Jordan, we can see the club is more inside the ball, expands out to make contact, moves through in a nice natural subtle arc. With you, your club's a little bit more behind the ball, drops down to make contact, then moves across the golf ball too much. Okay? So what happens here, if we happen to square the club face up to that path, we're going to hit the golf ball, obviously, in this direction. Now, I had already stipulated that if we remember where your alignment was, which was out to the right, we're effectively set up to hit the golf ball over here towards the body of water. And I mentioned that we're going to do something that's going to try and pull the golf ball back to the left. Well, there's your compensation. You're swinging the club along the red path to pull the ball to the blue flag. If you happen to over-release the club, not only will the ball start at the blue flag, but then we've got too much right to left spin, and not only do we pull the ball back online, but then we're going to hit some form of a pull draw or a pull hook. If we leave the club face open to the path, we can start the ball a little bit further right. Ball will get out. We'll have a little bit of left-right spin, and we really won't have an issue, and we'll hit just sort of this little pull fade or pull straight shot or subtle pull draw. If we leave the club face too open, we end up blocking the ball to the right, which is pretty incredible considering we're swinging the club to the left. Club face at that point is wide open, and therefore we're going to obviously hit some form of a block slice. So the end result of your golf shot through impact is very much based off of what that club face does. And if that club face squares up or over releases, it's going to follow red. If it under releases, it follows yellow. And if we time it perfectly, it'll follow blue, and everything will turn out just fine. We can see in this particular swing here that the club face definitely squared up, and the ball is definitely heading low and left, and probably staying there in that direction. So as we continue through here, we can see you get up off your right heel onto your right toe, get into your left side, you carry yourself through to a really nice finish. But at the end of the day here, the end result of your golf shot is really dictated by what that club face does. We see a lot of nice athleticism here from you. I mean, you're drawing your hands back, you're firing your hands through. You got great coil, you uncoil. You got great footwork allowing you to get through to a good finish. Unfortunately, we're aiming way out to the right. Then your subconscious brain says, hey, I got to hit this ball back to the left. So you send everything over the top. And then based on that, depending on what you do with your hands, influences what the club face is doing. And it's just going to create a lot of left to right tendencies and a lot of variance in your dispersions, which makes it very, very, very difficult to have any consistency. Because again, as I mentioned, the three criteria we need to hit straight golf balls and be consistent are: we have to aim well, have a proper downswing plane, and have a proper club face position. Unfortunately, we're not seeing any three of those criteria in your case, whereby we're aiming way too far right. We bring that golf club back, we get to the top of the backswing, we then come over the top, swing the golf club too steep into the ball on a swing path from out to in. At that point in time, we're trying to manipulate the club face. So right here we see the over the top move. As soon as you transition into the ball, club attacks the ball too far from outside to inside, and now depending on where that club face is associated is going to determine where that golf ball goes. Okay? So anyways, if at any point in time you want to work on any of these aspects of your golf game, certainly feel free to touch base. I'm over at Glen Abbey in Oakville. Be happy to structure a little program for you. Also, if you're involved with any golf tournaments at all and you're looking for a unique gift to provide to your guests, feel free to touch base. Be happy to discuss those swing analysis services. Anyways, I hope you had a fantastic day, and I hope you enjoyed getting an opportunity to see your swing on video.